On a warm November night in 2025, a man was found dead under mysterious circumstances inside a discreet safehouse in southern Gaza. That man was Hammad Hadid, a high-ranking Hezbollah military chief, whose death would unravel a story of espionage, betrayal, and international intrigue. Authorities entering the room discovered no signs of struggle, no shattered windows, and no evidence of forced entry. The body appeared undisturbed, yet every detail felt engineered. The unusual stillness suggested an operation executed with precision, far beyond what local factions normally confronted. Rumors spread rapidly through encrypted channels as militants attempted to understand how a figure as protected as Hadid could be eliminated without alerting his security network. Some whispered about infiltration. Others feared an advanced external strike capable of bypassing conventional detection. Hadid's presence in Gaza had been a closely guarded secret known only to a limited circle of commanders. His mission involved strengthening operational links across multiple fronts, making him a pivotal asset whose removal required extraordinary access and impeccable intelligence gathered over months. Investigators found subtle chemical traces on nearby surfaces, fragments too refined to originate from locally made devices. These anomalies hinted at foreign involvement, raising immediate questions about whether a silent hand had reached into Gaza's depths with unmatched technological sophistication. As dawn approached, confusion hardened into alarm. Leaders questioned whether their internal systems were compromised, and whether an unknown observer had monitored Hadid's movements with unsettling accuracy. The implications of such precision threatened to destabilize fragile alliances, shaped through years of covert coordination. Hadid's death did more than remove a strategist. It exposed the invisible conflict unfolding beneath ordinary life, revealing a hidden battlefield where information, misdirection, and patience mattered more than open confrontation. The mystery surrounding that single night would consume the region for weeks. August night in 2022, a man was found dead under mysterious circumstances inside a discreet safehouse in southern Gaza. That man was Hammad Hadid, a high-ranking Hezbollah military chief, whose death would unravel a story of espionage, betrayal, and international intrigue. Authorities entering the room discovered no signs of struggle, no shattered windows, and no evidence of forced entry. The body appeared undisturbed, yet every detail felt engineered. The unusual stillness suggested an operation executed with precision, far beyond what local factions normally confronted. Rumors spread rapidly through encrypted channels as militants attempted to understand how a figure as protected as Hadid could be eliminated without alerting his security network. Some whispered about infiltration. Others feared an advanced external strike capable of bypassing conventional detection. Hadid's presence in Gaza had been a closely guarded secret known only to a limited circle of commanders. His mission involved strengthening operational links across multiple fronts, making him a pivotal asset whose removal required extraordinary access and impeccable intelligence gathered over months. Investigators found subtle chemical traces on nearby surfaces, fragments too refined to originate from locally made devices. These anomalies hinted at foreign involvement, raising immediate questions about whether a silent hand had reached into Gaza's depths with unmatched technological sophistication. As dawn approached, confusion hardened into alarm. Leaders questioned whether their internal systems were compromised, and whether an unknown observer had monitored Hadid's movements with unsettling accuracy. The implications of such precision threatened to destabilize fragile alliances, shaped through years of covert coordination. Hadid's death did more than remove a strategist. It exposed the invisible conflict unfolding beneath ordinary life, revealing a hidden battlefield where information, misdirection, and patience mattered more than open confrontation. The mystery surrounding that single night would consume the region for weeks. If you appreciate deeply researched narratives about espionage, covert operations, and the hidden struggles shaping our world, then your support truly matters. Engage with this story by liking this video, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and telling us which city you are watching from. Your interaction helps this channel reach curious minds who want to understand global events beyond headlines. Subscribe and activate the notification bell so you never miss an investigation that uncovers the layers behind power, conflict, and intelligence. Your engagement transforms these stories into a community of informed viewers. But who was Hammad Hadid, the man whose silent death shook multiple intelligence networks across the region? To understand the significance of that night, we must explore the forces that shaped him, and the decisions that placed him squarely in Mossad's crosshairs. Hadid emerged from a world defined by conflict, secrecy, and ideological discipline. From an early age, he absorbed the narratives of resistance and regional power struggles, slowly evolving into a strategist whose influence extended far beyond the public view and traditional military structures. His ascent within Hezbollah's military framework was not the result of loud declarations but of quiet precision. He cultivated networks, mastered logistics, and coordinated operations with an analytical calm that made him indispensable and extremely dangerous to those observing him from foreign intelligence seats. What made him uniquely threatening was his ability to bridge geographical gaps between Beirut's hidden corridors and Gaza's dense underground labyrinths. He built channels of communication and supply that posed direct challenges to Israel's security, calculations, and broader regional balance. This was why his presence in Gaza was more than a routine deployment. It signaled an advanced stage of coordination between armed factions, potentially setting the groundwork for operations that could alter regional military dynamics and undermine carefully maintained deterrence mechanisms. Hence, the central question arises: how did Mossad locate a man who operated like a shadow? And what chain of decisions convinced Israeli leadership that eliminating him inside Gaza, rather than elsewhere, was worth the enormous risk of regional escalation? To uncover these answers, we must examine the broader landscape that shaped this deadly pursuit, explore the geopolitical forces tightening around both sides, and understand how competing ambitions pushed adversaries toward one meticulously planned collision in the heart of Gaza. The years leading to Hadid's death unfolded within an increasingly volatile Middle Eastern landscape, where competing powers maneuvered through layers of ideology, military strategy, and covert rivalry. Every shift in the region created opportunities for alliances to harden, dissolve, or evolve silently beneath official political narratives. Israel viewed Hezbollah as a hybrid adversary, merging guerrilla warfare, advanced weaponry, and foreign training. This combination forced Israeli intelligence to monitor movements across several countries, recognizing that any operational change within Hezbollah had potential consequences stretching from the Lebanese border to distant, unexpected theaters. At the same time, Gaza remained an overcrowded enclave wrestling with isolation, economic strain, and internal factional tensions. Its shifting alliances and rivalries created fertile ground for covert actors seeking influence, safe passage, or strategic positioning away from conventional surveillance patterns. Hezbollah's increasing interest in Gaza represented a subtle but significant transformation. The group sought deeper influence within Palestinian militant structures, hoping to coordinate efforts, share expertise, and test new operational methods that could eventually challenge regional deterrence quite effectively across multiple fronts. Israel interpreted this growing cooperation as a strategic red line. Any unified military framework linking Lebanon's front with Gaza's underground networks threatened to create simultaneous pressure points capable of overwhelming defensive calculations. Eliminating key architects of this emerging structure became a priority. Global politics also shaped the environment. Regional powers adjusted alliances based on shifting diplomatic incentives, economic interests, and ideological narratives. These fluctuating relationships created a landscape in which intelligence agencies operated with increased autonomy, using covert actions to compensate for uncertain or inconsistent diplomatic leverage. Meanwhile, militant groups strengthened internal security practices, adopting encrypted communication systems, decentralized command structures, and sophisticated smuggling routes. These adaptations complicated surveillance efforts and allowed figures like Hadid to move with surprising stealth across hostile and contested territories. Inside Hezbollah, Hadid symbolized a new generation of commanders capable of merging local tactics with broader regional ambitions. His assignments increasingly involved cross-border coordination, technological modernization, and strategic guidance intended to elevate military capabilities against adversaries studying each movement with intense scrutiny. For Israel, these developments confirmed the urgency of countering threats before they matured. Intelligence officials believed eliminating Hadid could halt several unfolding initiatives linking Gaza's militant infrastructure with foreign expertise. This belief shaped deliberations over whether a direct operation inside Gaza was justified. The political landscape inside Gaza added further complexity. Various factions competed for control, influence, and survival. External actors attempted to shape internal dynamics, adding layers of secrecy that forced intelligence agencies to rely on unconventional surveillance methods and long-term human sources. Foreign involvement intensified these tensions. Regional powers viewed Gaza not simply as a battlefield but as a symbolic space where their ideological rivals could either gain ground or lose strategic momentum. This rivalry made covert operations increasingly dangerous yet profoundly influential. By the time Hadid entered Gaza, circumstances allowed him relative protection. Local allies shielded his movements, tunnel systems provided concealment, and external sponsors offered resources. Yet these protective measures inadvertently drew more attention from adversaries determined to penetrate such defenses. Mossad's interest in Gaza had already reached unprecedented levels. Advanced reconnaissance platforms, cyber infiltration tools, and meticulous human intelligence networks expanded their coverage, allowing analysts to assemble fragmented clues about hidden visitors, shifting loyalties, and clandestine collaborations occurring beneath ordinary civilian activity. The environment was therefore a mosaic of secrecy, suspicion, and strategic ambition. Every side believed time was against them. Hezbollah sought expansion, Israel sought preemption. Gaza's internal factions sought survival. These intersecting pressures created the atmosphere in which Hadid's elimination became inevitable. Understanding this context reveals the operation was not an isolated event, but the culmination of broader regional dynamics. It emerged from years of surveillance, calculated risks, and unresolved tensions that shaped decisions on both sides of the conflict. Inside Tel Aviv's intelligence directorate, a small circle of senior analysts assembled fragments of intercepted messages, travel anomalies, and encrypted exchanges. Their conclusion was startling. Hammad Hadid had entered Gaza under an assumed identity, shielded by layers of operational security that made detection extremely challenging. The plan to neutralize him did not emerge overnight. It began with a quiet directive from upper leadership, instructing analysts to trace unusual logistical movements within Gaza's southern districts. These movements suggested the presence of an external strategist advising local factions on complex organizational and military matters. Satellite images revealed subtle patterns, brief gatherings at night, altered vehicle routes, and unexpected communication blackouts around certain safehouses. These irregularities, though minor individually, formed a mosaic pointing toward a concealed figure coordinating sensitive operations across densely populated neighborhoods. Cyber teams worked in parallel, infiltrating peripheral communication devices belonging to individuals suspected of supporting foreign visitors. Rather than seeking direct messages from Hadid, they targeted obscure digital footprints that might indirectly reveal his proximity and routines through behavioral patterns and logistical dependencies. Human intelligence added additional layers. Long-standing informants inside Gaza observed unusual couriers visiting specific tunnels, delivering materials and messages requiring elevated secrecy. Their reports helped map hidden corridors used to move high-value figures without triggering conventional surveillance systems. As evidence grew, strategic planners debated whether capturing or eliminating Hadid inside Gaza was feasible. The risks were immense, given the complexity of the environment and the likelihood of rapid escalations, yet allowing him to continue strengthening regional networks appeared even more dangerous to Israeli calculations. The method chosen needed to be exceptionally discreet. Conventional strikes were rejected due to potential civilian casualties and political fallout. Instead, specialists proposed a precision operation that relied on advanced technology, deep infiltration, and a controlled outcome designed to leave minimal visible disruption. This decision prompted the formation of a dedicated task group composed of intelligence officers, technical engineers, cyber specialists, and field operatives. Their mission required absolute secrecy, compartmentalized communication, and strict adherence to protocols intended to prevent information leaks at any stage. Engineers studied structural blueprints of the targeted Safehouse, acquired from historical construction archives and clandestine sources. They examined ventilation systems, wall densities, and subterranean connections to determine where a device could be placed without attracting attention or triggering widespread collateral damage. Cyber teams established a shadow network, allowing real-time monitoring of the Safehouse's electricity usage. movement inside rooms, and fluctuations in encrypted communication signals. These metrics helped analysts estimate Hadid's daily cycles, preferences, and vulnerabilities without relying on direct visual confirmation. Field operatives then rehearsed insertion methods using replicated structures built inside secure training grounds. They practiced silent entry, environmental mapping, and rapid withdrawal, simulating conditions expected inside Gaza's crowded, unpredictable streets. Every movement was tested repeatedly until muscle memory replaced conscious thought. Parallel diplomatic efforts ensured no unusual regional reactions would disrupt the operation. While no direct communication referenced Hadid, analysts monitored shifts in rhetoric, military deployments, and political statements, seeking indications that rival groups might anticipate an impending covert action. In Gaza, the final phase required a delicate blend of timing and deception. Operatives disguised as local workers moved through congested areas, blending with ordinary life, while gradually positioning surveillance tools to track subtle changes in patterns around the Safehouse. Sensors deployed nearby captured vibrations, sound levels, and micromovements, allowing analysts to determine when Hadid entered or exited rooms. These readings, though abstract, provided a surprisingly accurate view of his routine, ensuring operatives could predict his location with heightened confidence. Technical experts prepared a specialized device, engineered to function with precision under highly specific conditions. The design ensured a contained effect, directed solely at the intended target, avoiding structural collapse or unintended harm to surrounding individuals within the building. With intelligence converging and logistical elements in place, leadership approved the operation. The decision marked the transition from theoretical planning to actionable execution, prompting rapid coordination between multiple units that had operated separately until that critical moment. Final briefings emphasized adaptability. Gaza's environment was unpredictable, and any deviation could compromise years of preparation. Operatives were instructed to respond to unforeseen variables using predefined contingency protocols designed to maintain secrecy regardless of circumstances. The atmosphere within the command center grew increasingly tense as the launch window approached. Analysts monitored live feeds, cyber teams refined signal penetrations, and field units secured escape routes. Every participant understood the stakes and the irreversible consequences of failure. When the final confirmation arrived, the operation shifted into motion with quiet precision. No announcements were made, no commands were spoken aloud. Instead, synchronized signals moved silently across encrypted channels, setting in motion a sequence designed to end one man's concealed mission. At 2:45 a.m., Gaza's southern district lay under a heavy silence, broken only by the hum of distant generators. Shadows from dim streetlights stretched across narrow alleys as the Safehouse containing Hammad Hadid remained still, unaware of the operation quietly converging around it. Inside the command center, analysts watched shifting indicators on multiple screens. Electric fluctuations signaled movement in the Safehouse's central corridor. A coded message confirmed the target had settled in his private room, aligning perfectly with the predicted pattern created through weeks of careful surveillance. At 2:48 a.m., field operatives disguised as routine workers moved through a nearby alley, blending seamlessly with the darkness. Their presence drew no attention, protected by the predictable rhythms of a district accustomed to late-night activity and unpredictable power interruptions. The operatives paused near a narrow service entry adjacent to the Safehouse. Sensors confirmed that guard rotations were unchanged, communication channels remained inactive, and no unexpected visitors had approached. Conditions were ideal, allowing the next phase to proceed without raising suspicion. At 2:50 a.m., a silent signal reached the technical team. A concealed device, previously placed within a ventilation cavity, activated with carefully controlled precision. The mechanism triggered a narrow, directed pulse engineered to achieve its objective without producing significant noise or visible structural damage. Within seconds, analysts observed subtle shifts in internal environmental readings. Temperatures fluctuated slightly, air pressure changed, and micromovement sensors registered a brief disturbance. Everything aligned with the expected impact, confirming that the pulse had functioned exactly as designed by the engineering specialists. At 2:52 a.m., field teams began exfiltration procedures. Their retreat was slow, deliberate, and synchronized, ensuring no sudden disruptions would attract unwanted attention. Each operative moved through predetermined routes designed to weave naturally into the landscape's existing patterns of nighttime civilian motion. Inside the command center, leadership maintained composed silence. They monitored every data stream, verifying that internal communications within the Safehouse remained unchanged. No alarms sounded, no emergency signals appeared, and surrounding structures showed no signs of disturbance or unusual activity. At 2:54 a.m., cyber teams initiated the masking stage. They introduced minor digital noise into nearby communication networks, mimicking technical interference common in the area. This diversion ensured any delays in outgoing messages from the Safehouse would appear routine and unremarkable. Operatives continued withdrawing, crossing checkpoints disguised as maintenance personnel, returning from routine nocturnal duties. Their clothing, tools, and forged identification matched common local patterns so convincingly that even trained observers would have found nothing unusual in their quiet departure. At 2:57 a.m., the final field unit reported successful extraction from the immediate zone. Their signal prompted analysts to begin deep scans for anomalies across security channels within a several-block radius. All readings showed stability, suggesting the operation remained completely undetected. At 3 a.m., the Safehouse environment stabilized. Sensors indicated a lack of movement in the target's room, matching anticipated outcomes. Analysts conducted secondary verification using heat signatures, vibration analysis, and signal behavior to ensure accuracy before providing their assessment to leadership. The atmosphere within the command center grew stiller. Months of planning had culminated in these precise minutes, and every specialist understood the significance of confirmation. They waited for overlapping indicators to align, ensuring no premature conclusions would compromise their meticulous standard. At 3:05 a.m., confirmation arrived. The target's biometric signature showed no activity. Auxiliary sensors detected no secondary individuals nearby, no sudden environmental shifts, and no structural destabilization. The operation had achieved its objective exactly as intended. Field units now moved toward distant extraction points, using staggered timing to mimic unrelated civilian or commercial traffic. Their paths diverged to avoid creating any pattern, adhering strictly to protocols designed to prevent retroactive tracking or geographic correlation. While Gaza slept unaware of the invisible event, leadership initiated the containment phase. Analysts monitored local networks for emerging chatter, waiting to see whether anyone near the Safehouse would detect irregularities or report unusual sounds. None appeared, confirming the precision of the operation. At 3:15 a.m., cyber teams began dismantling temporary infiltration channels. One by one, digital footprints disappeared as shadow networks collapsed. Logs were cleansed, decoys deployed, and encrypted pathways shut down, leaving no identifiable traces leading back to external actors. By 3:20 a.m., field operatives reached secure transfer locations, where they blended into pre-arranged civilian movements. Their successful integration reflected the extensive rehearsals conducted beforehand, ensuring no observable pattern linked them to the earlier stages of the mission. The final communications review occurred at 3:25 a.m. Analysts rechecked all feeds, verifying that local factions displayed routine behavior. No alerts, mobilizations, or emergency gatherings indicated awareness of the targeted disruption. The area remained calm, as if nothing had happened. At 3:30 a.m., leadership gave the concluding acknowledgement. The mission was complete. The operation had unfolded within a narrow window of clandestine synchronization, leaving behind only subtle clues that would puzzle investigators for days without offering clear direction. For Mossad, this moment marked the end of a complex pursuit requiring precision, patience, and coordination across numerous divisions. The objective had been met without triggering broader escalation, fulfilling the operation's core purpose while maintaining the secrecy essential to its design. When dawn approached, the Safehouse still appeared undisturbed from the outside. The district continued waking on schedule, unaware that a significant shift in regional dynamics had occurred quietly within its walls during those carefully orchestrated minutes before sunrise. By early morning, confusion swept through the neighborhood surrounding the Safehouse. Residents noticed unusual quiet inside the building, yet no explosion had been heard. Whispers spread as individuals questioned whether an accident, internal dispute or external intrusion had occurred during the night. Local factions dispatched their own observers to inspect the site. They found the structure intact, but encountered a deeply unsettling scene inside the private room. The absence of visible disruption left them uncertain, prompting immediate speculation about advanced methods used by unseen adversaries. Within hours, suspicion hardened into anger. Leaders of militant groups quietly accused foreign intelligence services of orchestrating a stealth attack. Their statements were cautious but unmistakably pointed, suggesting an external plot engineered to destabilize ongoing coordination between Gaza and external allies. In internal meetings, commanders expressed urgency and alarm. They recognized that if a high-value figure like Hammad Hadid could be reached so precisely, then other visitors or advisors might also be vulnerable. This realization forced them to reassess security protocols across multiple districts. Meanwhile, Hezbollah circles received discreet messages confirming the identity of the deceased. Shock reverberated through their ranks. Hadid had traveled under tight secrecy, protected by trusted intermediaries. His death raised troubling questions about infiltration, surveillance, and the reliability of long-standing protective networks. Publicly, statements released by sympathetic factions framed the incident as an assassination. They denounced external interference and promised retaliation, though none explained how the operation had occurred. The lack of clarity only deepened internal frustration and mistrust toward suspected leaks or compromised channels. Among civilians, rumors multiplied rapidly. Some believed the Safehouse had been targeted using unfamiliar technology. Others suspected internal rivalry disguised as an external attack. The absence of concrete evidence allowed every theory to flourish unchecked, fueling widespread unease. Regional actors monitored unfolding reactions with concern. Diplomats exchanged quiet communications urging restraint, fearing that misinterpretation of the event could ignite broader tensions. Their careful language reflected uncertainty about how deeply this incident might influence regional alignments or provoke escalatory responses. Inside Israeli analytical circles, the mood remained restrained. Specialists avoided public commentary, focusing instead on monitoring the ripple effects triggered by the operation. Their primary concern centered on whether factions would discover any clue linking the event to external involvement. Investigators inside Gaza moved quickly to control access to the Safehouse. They removed electronic devices, interviewed nearby residents, and conducted chemical scans. Despite their efforts, the scene yielded no obvious leads. The precision of the operation frustrated attempts to reconstruct the event. Social channels across the region erupted with speculation. Discussions ranged from exaggerated claims of advanced weaponry to assertions of internal betrayal. Without official explanations, narratives became increasingly dramatic, reflecting widespread uncertainty and the emotional impact of losing a key strategic figure. By afternoon, internal factions released synchronized statements condemning the operation but avoiding direct attribution. Their hesitation reflected fear of miscalculating and escalating tensions prematurely. The region entered a period of tense waiting, with each group preparing for potential repercussions. Through the day, political leaders held closed-door consultations, seeking to determine whether the incident demanded a public response or quiet recalibration. Their debates underscored the dilemma between projecting strength and avoiding a chain reaction that could spiral into broader conflict. As night approached, the immediate shock evolved into strategic contemplation. Every faction studied the implications of Hadid's death, understanding that it signaled a profound shift in regional intelligence capabilities. The event had altered calculations, forcing all sides to reconsider both vulnerabilities and opportunities. As investigators examined the Safehouse, conflicting interpretations quickly emerged. Some analysts argued the operation reflected a sophisticated external strike, citing the absence of structural damage and the precise targeting. Others insisted the event aligned more closely with internal sabotage executed to appear like foreign interference. Within militant factions, deep divisions surfaced. Certain commanders claimed an infiltrator within their ranks had deliberately exposed Hadid's location. They pointed to unusual guard rotations and unexplained communication delays as indicators of betrayal orchestrated to eliminate a rising strategic figure. Opposing voices rejected the betrayal theory entirely. They believed the operation displayed technological signatures unattainable by internal actors. According to them, only an advanced intelligence service could execute such a controlled event without alerting neighboring structures or leaving recognizable operational residue. Cyber specialists within Gaza offered a different narrative, suggesting that electronic interference observed hours before the incident implied a remote intrusion. They argued that subtle distortions in network activity hinted at manipulation, possibly from distant systems capable of bypassing standard security checks. Some regional observers advanced a theory involving rival factions beyond Gaza. They proposed that external groups might have viewed Hadid's influence as destabilizing to their own plans, prompting a covert action intended to curb his expanding authority within intertwined militant networks. In contrast, sympathetic political circles framed the incident as part of a broader campaign targeting influential strategists across the region. They argued that Hadid's death fit a recognizable pattern of quiet eliminations designed to disrupt evolving alliances and neutralize emerging coordination between distant militant fronts. Independent analysts, operating from outside formal structures, considered the possibility of a technical accident disguised by assumptions of foreign involvement. They noted previous incidents where experimental devices malfunctioned, creating ambiguous scenes later interpreted as deliberate strikes despite lacking definitive evidence. However, this accident theory struggled to gain traction. Detractors emphasized Hadid's meticulous operational habits, arguing that he would never permit untested systems near his personal environment. For them, the precision of the outcome contradicted any claim of equipment failure or unintended detonation. Another narrative suggested the operation was a collaborative effort involving multiple actors with shared interests. This theory proposed that limited intelligence had been exchanged discreetly between rival powers, enabling a surgical action while preserving plausible deniability for all participants involved. Academic circles debated the implications of these competing theories. Some argued that secrecy surrounding intelligence operations inherently distorts history, producing layers of speculation rather than clarity. They claimed such incidents reveal more about regional fears than verifiable truths. Moral questions also emerged. Critics questioned whether any state or faction possessed the ethical authority to conduct covert actions inside densely populated territories. They asked whether strategic necessity justified violating sovereignty or exposing civilians to latent operational risks. On the opposing side, supporters of preemptive action contended that eliminating a figure responsible for coordinating armed operations ultimately prevented greater instability. They argued that decisive covert measures could avert broader conflicts, even if executed beyond formal legal boundaries. As days passed, no faction produced definitive evidence supporting its preferred version. Each explanation held enough plausibility to remain viable, yet none resolved the lingering uncertainty surrounding the operation. The absence of clarity intensified suspicion rather than dispelling it. This ambiguity deepened further when conflicting testimonies surfaced from individuals living near the Safehouse. Some claimed they felt a faint vibration during the night. Others insisted they noticed nothing unusual. These contradictory memories only expanded the interpretive fog. Ultimately, the story fractured into multiple unresolved strands. The truth remained buried beneath secrecy, misdirection, and strategic silence. Whether the operation was an external strike, internal purge, or collaborative intervention, each version reflected particular fears and ambitions shaping regional power dynamics. The event therefore became more than a single incident. It evolved into a symbol of contested narratives, revealing how intelligence operations often reside in the uncertain space between fact and speculation, where definitive answers rarely emerge and every explanation carries its own political weight. Hadid's elimination triggered immediate strategic recalculations across the region. His absence disrupted ongoing coordination between factions, severing a critical link that had facilitated communication, training exchanges, and long-term planning. The ripple effects forced groups to reassess priorities and reconsider the pace of their joint initiatives. Within Gaza, militant leaders recognized the operational vacuum created by his death. Hadid had provided strategic cohesion between various wings, and without him, internal divisions resurfaced. These tensions weakened several developing projects and slowed the integration of tactics previously influenced by external advisors. For Hezbollah, the impact was equally significant. Losing a figure who bridged distant fronts undermined plans to expand operational synergy. His strategic insights had been difficult to replace, leaving leadership concerned about vulnerabilities created by his sudden and unexplained loss. From Israel's perspective, the operation delivered a tactical success. By removing a central coordinator, authorities believed they had preempted potential escalations. The action signaled their commitment to disrupting emerging threats before they matured into larger, multi-front challenges. However, strategic advantages carried diplomatic risks. Regional actors feared the incident might embolden future operations, prompting a cycle of covert actions that could destabilize delicate power balances. This uncertainty increased the potential for miscalculations with far-reaching consequences. International observers interpreted the event as a demonstration of evolving intelligence capabilities. They noted that such precision operations reflected a shift toward smaller, targeted interventions rather than broad confrontations. This shift underscored the growing importance of surveillance, infiltration, and technological superiority in modern conflicts. Inside Gaza, suspicion toward internal collaborators intensified. Leadership feared their networks might have been penetrated more deeply than previously believed. These concerns led to widespread security overhauls, including purges, communication restructuring, and stricter compartmentalization of information among senior members. The broader region also felt the repercussions. Rival groups monitored the aftermath to evaluate the effectiveness of protective measures. Some adopted new counter-surveillance techniques, incorporating encrypted communication platforms and stricter travel protocols, to prevent similar incidents from undermining their operations. Diplomatically, the event forced governments to navigate uncomfortable questions. Some feared being indirectly implicated or accused of facilitating covert actions, while others worried that unchecked intelligence competition might escalate into public confrontations, capable of disrupting fragile geopolitical alignments. Analysts compared the situation to a complex chess game. Hadid's removal represented a knight captured at a critical moment, altering the board's geometry. While the move appeared advantageous, it risked exposing new vulnerabilities that could be exploited by unpredictable adversaries. Long-term consequences began to emerge slowly. Factions that relied on Hadid's expertise struggled to recreate his strategic frameworks. Their attempts to rebuild networks revealed gaps in training, planning, and coordination, demonstrating how dependent they had become on his unique operational vision. Israeli planners monitored these shifts carefully. They recognized that destabilizing coordination efforts could reduce immediate threats, but might also encourage unpredictable behavior from groups seeking to re-establish credibility. This possibility required ongoing vigilance and recalibration of defensive strategies. For external actors observing from afar, Hadid's death served as a cautionary tale. It highlighted the risks of relying on single individuals to sustain complex regional networks. Many began prioritizing redundancy and decentralization to avoid similar disruptions in future operations. Ultimately, the operation reshaped strategic equations across multiple fronts. It demonstrated the power of covert action to alter regional dynamics without conventional warfare. But it also revealed the fragility of temporary advantages in a landscape defined by rapid adaptation and persistent rivalry. In the years following Hadid's death, the operation evolved into a case studied quietly within intelligence circles. It became an example of precise covert intervention, demonstrating how a single action executed without visible disruption could reshape regional strategic calculations and long-term operational trajectories. For militant groups, Hadid's elimination became a symbol of vulnerability. His death served as a constant reminder that even deeply protected figures remained reachable. Training programs emphasized this lesson, using his case to highlight gaps in internal security and the dangers of centralized leadership. Supporters of targeted operations framed the event as a turning point. They argued that removing influential strategists through covert means prevented broader conflict and facilitated temporary stability. These interpretations emphasized tactical necessity over diplomatic hesitation or moral concerns surrounding clandestine actions. Critics countered this narrative by questioning the legality and ethical foundations of operating inside densely populated territories. They argued the event blurred boundaries between state security interests and unilateral intervention, raising concerns about sovereignty, accountability, and potential misuse of covert capabilities. As time passed, the operation's origins remained disputed. Competing claims continued to circulate among regional factions, each shaping the legacy to suit political needs. Some described the event as foreign aggression, while others insisted internal betrayal played a central role in Hadid's demise. The absence of conclusive evidence allowed myth-making to flourish. Rumors grew into elaborate theories describing shadow alliances, secret negotiations, and unseen actors influencing events. For many, the ongoing uncertainty became more significant than any attempt at factual clarity. Within intelligence training programs, the operation was referenced as an example of coordinated multi-division planning. Instructors emphasized its integration of cyber tools, human intelligence, and technical engineering. These lessons influenced evolving doctrines focused on surgical precision and minimized exposure. However, others argued the operation harmed long-term stability by deepening distrust among regional factions. They contended that eliminating a single strategist could destabilize fragile alliances and provoke responses shaped more by emotion than calculated judgment, potentially increasing unpredictability across the region. For historians, the legacy remained complex. Without definitive answers, interpretations varied widely. Some viewed the event as a quiet milestone in covert strategy, while others considered it a cautionary moment illustrating the risks inherent in escalating intelligence competition. Ultimately, Hadid's death entered regional memory as a contested chapter defined by secrecy, speculation, and silence. Its controversies persisted long after immediate repercussions faded, ensuring the incident remained both influential and unresolved in the narratives shaping the modern Middle East. Hadid's death left a complex legacy shaped by secrecy rather than certainty. The operation removed a strategic figure, yet its consequences extended far beyond the Safehouse walls. It illustrated how covert actions often generate silent tremors that reshape regional calculations. Long after the immediate objective is completed, the operation raised enduring questions about power, restraint, and responsibility. Eliminating a single strategist altered multiple trajectories, yet it also revealed the fragility of stability in regions shaped by competing ambitions. Tactical victories rarely guarantee long-term clarity when rival narratives persist without definitive resolution. Observers continued debating whether the event represented necessary preemption or an escalation that deepened mistrust. Every interpretation reflected distinct fears and priorities, demonstrating how intelligence operations rarely conclude cleanly. Their effects ripple across alliances, shaping decisions long after the mission ends. For modern strategists, the incident became a reference point, illustrating the delicate balance between security and escalation. It offered lessons about precision, patience, and the unpredictable consequences of covert interventions executed in territories already strained by political, military, and ideological pressures. Even today, the unanswered questions surrounding the operation linger. Who ultimately enabled it? Which vulnerabilities made it possible? And how many future decisions across the region still carry its unseen influence? These uncertainties ensure the story remains unresolved in the regional imagination. If this story fascinated you, subscribe and turn on the bell. We are just getting started.